In a move that has sent shockwaves through the tennis world, Alex Eala reportedly held a private, closed-door meeting with WTA chairman Steve Simon. No cameras, no press release, no official confirmation, just silence. And in professional tennis, silence like this is rarely accidental. It speaks volumes. The news surfaced quietly, almost like a whisper, but its impact was explosive. A 19-year-old rising star requesting a confidential meeting with the most powerful figure in women's tennis? That alone was enough to ignite speculation across locker rooms, media outlets, and fan communities worldwide. What could possibly warrant such secrecy? What urgent matter would require direct access to the very top of the WTA hierarchy? Because this wasn't a routine courtesy call, it wasn't a congratulatory meeting, and it certainly wasn't casual. When a young player secures a private sit-down with Steve Simon, it signals something big, something sensitive, something that, if made public, could ripple through the entire sport. At the center of this storm stands Alex Eala, the teenage sensation from the Philippines who made history as the first player from her country to win a junior Grand Slam title at the US Open. Her rise has been nothing short of remarkable. But behind the highlight reels, the applause, and the patriotic celebrations lies a far harsher reality, one that few outside the professional circuit truly understand. Eala's journey has never been easy. While many of her peers benefit from world-class facilities, deep-pocketed sponsors, and elite coaching teams, her path has been paved with financial pressure, relentless travel, and physical strain. From grinding through qualifying rounds to battling injuries and chasing ranking points across continents, her professional life has been a test of endurance in every sense of the word. She has spoken openly in the past about the struggles of being a Southeast Asian athlete on the global tennis stage, the lack of institutional support, limited funding, exhausting travel schedules, and the crushing costs required just to compete. Flights, hotels, coaches, physios, tournament fees, expenses that pile up long before a single ball is struck. But this meeting with Simon, this was different. This wasn't a social media post. This wasn't a frustrated soundbite in a post-match interview. This was Eala taking her concerns directly to the highest authority in women's tennis. And when players do that, it usually means every other avenue has failed. Almost instantly, insiders began whispering. Journalists started digging. Fans flooded online forums with theories. And yet, the WTA maintained total radio silence. No confirmations. No denials. Just an uncomfortable void where answers should be. Why would a teenager demand a private audience with the chairman of the entire tour? What could she possibly need to say that couldn't be handled through agents, coaches, or management? Teams? And perhaps most importantly, what did Simon say in response? The reality is simple. Meetings like this don't happen without urgency, leverage, or the sense that something is about to explode. Eala didn't walk into that room to chat casually. She walked in to confront, to demand, to push on issues that demanded attention at the highest possible level. And she certainly wasn't there to discuss trivial matters like tournament preferences or travel accommodations. She came with something serious, something that required confidentiality, something that, if revealed, could shake the foundations of the WTA. To understand the magnitude of this moment, you have to understand Eala's journey. From the moment she burst onto the scene, she carried the hopes of an entire nation. The first Filipino junior Grand Slam champion, the next global star, the future of Southeast Asian tennis. Expectations soared, pressure mounted, but reality hit hard. Injuries slowed her momentum. Qualifying rounds became battles of survival. She bounced between continents chasing ranking points that barely moved the needle. While wealthier players with powerful support systems climbed the rankings steadily, Eala found herself fighting just to stay afloat. Not because she lacked talent, but because the system itself favors those with resources. Over the past year, her public tone began to shift. What once sounded hopeful became raw. What once sounded patient became frustrated. She began questioning the fairness of tournament scheduling. She hinted at pressure to compete through injuries. She spoke about wildcard policies that seemed inconsistent and qualifying systems that punished lower-ranked players relentlessly. And then came the tournament that changed everything. Details remain murky, but multiple insiders suggest there was a major incident involving officiating decisions and perceived unfair treatment. Something happened that pushed Eala beyond her breaking point. That's when she demanded the meeting. Young players rarely get a seat at the table, and when they do, it's not by accident. It's because they have reached a moment where silence is no longer an option. Requesting a private meeting with the WTA chairman is a calculated risk. It draws attention. It sparks speculation. It can even backfire. But Eala did it anyway. Not out of desperation, but out of conviction. She is betting that whatever she's fighting for is worth becoming a target. So what is the fight really about? Money, fairness, representation, structural reform, or something even darker? The WTA's silence only fuels the mystery. The organization could easily issue a neutral statement. We met with Alexandra Eala to discuss tour development. It was a productive conversation. But they haven't. And that silence isn't neutral. It's strategic. Multiple theories are now circulating. Some insiders believe Eala confronted Simon about inconsistent rule enforcement, questionable medical exemptions, and unfair scheduling policies. Others think the issue is financial, specifically the brutal economic realities faced by lower-ranked players who struggle to survive on tour. But darker rumors are also emerging, whispers of favoritism, allegations of officiating bias, concerns that player safety is being sacrificed for commercial interests. And perhaps most disturbing, suggestions that certain players receive protection while others are left vulnerable. What's most unsettling is that no one is denying these rumors. Active. Players are staying conspicuously silent. One top-ranked athlete, when asked about the meeting, replied, "I think it's better if I don't comment on that." Not, "I don't know." Not, "No comment." But a deliberate deflection, suggesting knowledge without permission to speak. That single sentence sent speculation into overdrive. Because if players themselves are afraid to comment, it means the matter is serious enough to carry consequences. Another widely discussed theory revolves around contractual obligations that disproportionately punish emerging players. Mandatory tournament requirements, rigid scheduling rules, and ranking penalties can devastate young athletes already battling injury and fatigue. For someone like Eala, constantly traveling across continents, these policies are not just exhausting. They're career-threatening. Insiders suggest she may have pressed Simon for structural reforms, flexibility, and protections for developing players. If true, this would explain the WTA's extreme caution. Acknowledging systemic flaws publicly could expose the organization to legal challenges, sponsor pressure, and massive reputational damage. But perhaps the most powerful dimension of this story lies in geography. Eala isn't just fighting for herself. She represents an entire region that has historically been marginalized in global tennis. Southeast Asia, limited tournaments, scarce funding, minimal wildcard access, almost zero infrastructure compared to Europe and North America. If she demanded greater tour investment in Southeast Asia, she would be challenging the very power structures that define professional tennis. Economics. Saying yes would require redistributing resources. Saying no would confirm long-standing accusations of inequality. And then there's the most explosive possibility of all. What if Eala didn't walk into that meeting to request reform, but to demand accountability? What if she brought evidence of misconduct? What if she confronted Simon with documentation of officiating irregularities, player mistreatment, or internal policy violations? That would instantly explain the information blackout. If such allegations went public, the WTA would face a public relations catastrophe of historic proportions. None of these theories are confirmed, but every single one is plausible, and that's exactly why this story has become so volatile. The WTA presents itself as a progressive organization, championing equality, empowerment, and fairness. But behind closed doors, it remains a corporate entity driven by contracts, sponsorships, and financial priorities. Players who challenge authority often face fines. Those who demand transparency risk isolation. Those who disrupt the narrative are labeled difficult. But something is changing. Players are getting braver. They are realizing that silence doesn't protect them. It traps them. And when a young athlete like Alexandra Eala, with everything to lose, confronts the chairman directly, it sends a powerful message across the locker room. You don't have to accept this. The stakes couldn't be higher. If Eala succeeds, if she forces reform, accountability, or systemic change, it could embolden dozens of other players to speak out. It could shift power away from executives and back toward athletes. It could redefine player advocacy in women's tennis. But if she loses, if the WTA quietly buries the issue, the message is equally clear. Stay in line or pay the price. Right now, the tennis world is frozen in anticipation. Eala hasn't spoken, Simon hasn't spoken. The WTA is acting as if nothing happened. But silence can only last so long. Insiders suggest legal teams are involved, contracts are being reviewed, negotiations are ongoing, and pressure is building behind closed doors. Sooner or later, someone will blink. Either Eala goes public, risking fines, suspensions, and potential career consequences, or the WTA is forced to respond as speculation grows too loud to ignore. What makes this moment truly fascinating is the leverage Eala holds. She is young, she is widely admired, she represents an underrepresented region, and she commands global sympathy. If she decides to go public, to reveal exactly what happened, in that room, the WTA will have no choice but to respond, and any response they give will be dissected, scrutinized, and challenged. The real question is no longer what was discussed in that meeting. It's who breaks first. That closed-door conversation was only the opening move. What comes next could redefine not just Alex Eala's career, but the future of player rights in women's tennis. And when the silence finally breaks, its impact will echo across the entire sport.